Hello, everyone. My name is Dev, and I'm Cloud VMware Solution Specialist in EMEA, the cloud engineering organization. Today, I'm joined by my colleague Thomas. Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Thomas. I'm also a cloud VMware solution specialist, also for the EMEA region. And yeah, today we are going to present you Oracle Secure Desktops, a native video offering on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Thomas. So let's get started, guys. As part of the agenda today, we'll be talking about the general VDI overview, what is all about VDI, what this virtual desktop infrastructure means, what are some of the options available that we can deploy the VDI solutions in OCI. Most importantly, we'll be focusing on our OCI secure desktop service overview, and at the end, we'll have the live demo of the OCI secure desktop solution. So let's get started. VDI in general, or virtual desktop infrastructure, allows you to run the virtual desktops in a centralized location. It can be your on-premises data center, or it can be in the cloud environment. Now, these desktops can then be accessed using the connection broker by the end users from anywhere in the world, from any devices such as laptop, mobile, tablet. Now, this desktop technologies, which is quite there in the market since last more than 2 decades, and quite familiar with the different use cases that we will be looking into. But this overall functionality is to render the desktops, whether it be Windows, Linux, according to the end user requirements, as well as the stream applications without even provisioning the entire desktop for the end users. You might have also seen that this kind of end user computing or mobile device management operations are into your day-to-day life as well. It's just that you might have never noticed it, and that's where we will look into now. What are some of the industries where we have these solutions deployed? But before we go into those details, let's understand some key terminologies of the VDI. Desktop pool, which is a collection of identical desktops. It's always going to be a single operating system with predefined softwares. Desktop publishing, which allows you to have the desktop rendering through the centralized location over the connection broker, as I mentioned. Application streaming, where you're running your applications on a hosted platform, but you're just streaming them to the remote devices over the connection broker. Golden image is a master template by which, by leveraging the golden image, you basically deploy the desktop pools, which has the standard configuration of operating system plus the standard applications installed into that golden image. So, which industries use the virtual desktop infrastructure today? Obviously, there are many industries where VDI is prominent. But starting with first is distributed and remote workforces. This is something that you might have noticed during the COVID pandemic time, that most of the corporates, government employees, they were working remotely. And one of the best options is that they get their virtual machine desktops on a predefined schedules or during their business hours in order to optimize the cost. And they can sit anywhere, working from home or working from any other place, and just connect to their environment securely. Kiosks and task workers, you might have also noticed that during, if you have visited, I'm sure you might have visited many times the supermarkets. They have the kiosk devices in the retail industries where the kiosks are basically just the thin client device where the application is streamed. Basically, it utilizes the same VDI functionality at certain extent. Even they get the full desktops in order to perform their day-to-day retail operations and save their work on their specific desktops as well. Call center is another popular use case where in the call center employees, they have a specific set of applications that they want to use. Let's say, the telephone, virtual telephones that they want to use as an application. in order to call the customers, save their data and other things. But these are like a common set of operations which are used by the call center employees. So they typically work in shifts in order to facilitate their requirements on 24/7. They usually get those desktops where they can centrally save all of their data and use applications necessary for the call centers. Graphic intensive applications, because the GPUs are, in general, the hardware prices are going down due to the adoption of different chipsets and different hardware peripherals. GPU has becoming a very popular use cases nowadays, and it has been since last quite a long time because of the use cases such as 3D rendering, AutoCAD, maybe designers that they use for such operations. Obviously the CPU is not sufficient, and then you use the GPUs in this case. So graphic intensive applications, it's just not about having the capability from the hardware that allows you to operate such applications, but you also need an infrastructure which allows you to connect, work on those specific applications, and then save your work. And that's where even the VDI comes into the picture. Well, into the educational institutions, students typically they use the VDI. They just bring their own devices and connect to the specific desktops in order for them to consume specific services, what the education institutes offer, as well as certain application that you might have noticed during the pandemic that has been developed just to have an effective way of remote working for students using their own devices. And what the schools and the educational institutions also realize that there is a benefit in terms of cost saving just by not maintaining the entire school infrastructure for the number of physical desktops there. Well, these are the common use cases of the virtual desktop infrastructure. So let's look into the options that are available out of the box within OCI that allows you to run this kind of virtual desktop infrastructure. So we typically have three different options that allows you to have VDI in Oracle Cloud infrastructure. I'll first talk about the option number 2 and 3 because they are specifically tied with a very unique service that Oracle Cloud infrastructure offers, what we refer to as Oracle Cloud VMware solution, or OCVS in short. Because VMware is there in the market since last 3-4 decades, when we talk about end user computing and the virtual desktop infrastructure, Citrix and the VMwares are the popular names where you run the VDI infrastructure to get the full end user capabilities for such use cases. Now this OCVS, that means it's running VMware in Oracle Cloud, allows you to run VMware Horizon as the second option describes. VMware Horizon is a software suite offered by VMware that gives you a complete workspace solution for end user computing, ranging from your desktop rendering or application streaming. OCVS is bundled with the hardware plus VMware software. So if you want to run VMware Horizon, then you should bring your own license for the Horizon and deploy it on OCVS, which is completely certified architecture. Something similar, even you can run Citrix virtual apps and desktops on OCVS. That again gives you a complete workspace solution. And similarly, you can bring your own license for Citrix and run on top of OCVS, because both of these are completely certified architectures. These are something what I also refer to as a fully customer managed environments. And then it is important to understand why it's customer managed environment, because you as a customer are responsible to manage and maintain the OCVS as well as the VDI solution that you run on top. Now let's just focus on the option number 1, which is Oracle Secure Desktop, our native managed services offering. So it's available in OCI as one of the service into the compute umbrella, which allows you to deploy a Windows and Linux VDI infrastructure The best part is that you don't need to maintain underlying infrastructure in order to build the VDI solution, and that's where it gives you advantages of managed services solution for OCI, secure desktop, or VDI in general. So you might be thinking, from these options, when should I choose what, and when should I consider OCI secure desktops versus the OCVS kind of solution, or other way around? So if you're looking out for something like a managed services kind of a desktop as a service solution, then OCI secure desktop is an option for you. But if you're keen on maintaining your own infrastructure for the OCVS plus your Horizon or Citrix, then you should go for the third-party VDI solutions on OCVS that I described previously. Obviously, just because the OCVS is an expensive solution in terms of having, let's say 3 nodes is the bare minimum requirement, and that's the reason I said expensive. Otherwise, the way we offer the flexibility for the OCVS solution, you can even right sizes and get the cost benefits there as well. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the OCVS has the bare minimum 3 node requirement, and then on top of that, you're bringing your own VMware Horizon licenses. That sometimes not a cost-effective solution as compared to the OCI secure desktop. But if you're looking out for a complete workspace solution wherein you need application streaming, desktop rendering, different protocols, different integration points, then you should go for third-party solutions that I explained previously, wherein if you just need a remote access to the desktop from anywhere securely connecting to the cloud-based solution, then you should consider the OCI secure desktop. The best part is that you can easily scale, and this is a native service, so you can pretty much integrate and use any of the OCI native services, which certainly is not possible with the third-party solutions. And most importantly, as I mentioned, the graphic intensive application workloads, where if you have any 3D rendering requirement, then you should move on to the third-party solutions rather than the secure desktop. So I'll pass on the mic to Thomas, who can provide you brief on OCI secure desktop service.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dev. So let's have a deeper look into Oracle Secure Desktops. So as Dev already mentioned, Oracle Secure Desktops is our managed service desktop as a service offering, and we have a very high level diagram how the service is built up. Basically, with this service that we're providing in your cloud regions, you have 2 options to connect to the service by the internet. So can either use a binary client, what we call it, so that's really a software client installed on your end user's device, or you're using an up-to-date web browser to access the OCI Secure Desktop service. We are providing, of course, virtual desktops for Linux and Windows OS, depending on the operating system that you're using. And of course, the operating system has to be compliant with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So you really need an up-to-date operating system, Windows 10, Windows 11, for example, with bringing on license, or an up-to-date Linux distribution that we are supporting on our platform. Like I said, this service is accessed by the internet, and this is where you do not really need to provide a public IP address, because it's a public service in our Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So you are just connecting to an endpoint URL that we are providing you, and basically then in the end, like we see it in the diagram here, the virtual desktops itself will be provided in a private subnet in your own customer's tenancy in your own virtual cloud network. So your virtual desktops itself are under your full control. You have the full perimeter security and everything, because these machines will run in your own cloud account, in your own virtual cloud network, and not in a service tenancy. The virtual desktop service itself, like we see it here in green, will run in an OCI service tenancy, where we're providing the desktop pools and actually the control layer, where you then have the full control in creating your desktop images, managing the authentication for your users, and so on and so on. The key benefits when you're using Oracle Secure Desktops, of course, like we already mentioned, it's a managed service. So if you do not really want to take care of managing infrastructure and managing a whole VDI solution, like you have to do it with Oracle Cloud VMware solution and then with VMware Horizon or Citrix virtual desktops and apps on top of it, then you can really benefit of this Oracle Secure Desktop solution because it will really bring down your operational overheads. You do not have to worry about scalability and elasticity because this service is fully built on our cloud infrastructure. So our cloud infrastructure is scaling automatically. So you do not have to worry about it like you have it in on-premise environments or when you're again using third-party VDI solutions where you really have to do capacity management and all this stuff. This is not required on our infrastructure. You're just provisioning virtual desktops and you do not have to take care about the rest. You're getting a unified and centralized management. It's integrated in our OCI console, so you really get the look and feel of all our Oracle Cloud services when managing this infrastructure. And of course, it's an easy lift and shift in the end also to the service because you can use your current images that you have on premise on your VDI solution, migrate it to Oracle Cloud infrastructure, and then convert the image into an OCI image, or you're using our pre-built images that we have for Linux, for Windows, and so on, to then install or to create your golden images and then add these images to your desktop pools. And like Dev already mentioned, this solution is fully integrated with all our cloud services. So basically, in the end, it's just a matter of opening ports and creating the right routing to the other services. But every application that is running inside your virtual desktops can communicate with all the applications or all the services that we provide in your customer's tenancy. For example, OCI object storage. You can connect to our database services, our analytics services, AI services. Everything is possible from these VDI machines. And last but not least, one of the key benefits, like we already mentioned, is a really cost-efficient service because it is pay as you go in the end, right? So you're just paying for the time your virtual machines are running. If your virtual machines are not running, your VDIs are not running, you're not paying for these machines. So you can really spin up and spin down your environments and really scale your environments as you need it from time to time to really build a cost-efficient solution, which is not possible, let's say it, with these, let's say, third-party VMware solutions because you really have a static infrastructure, underlying infrastructure with monthly base costs that will always be there, even if you run 100 virtual desktops or if you run 1,000 virtual desktops on it. So the base cost for these third-party solutions will always be the same. And of course, the entry cost for the third-party solutions is higher than, of course, with Oracle Secure Desktops. Generally, when we are looking at the compartment structure, so what your OCI tenant administrators will create is a separate compartment for our secure desktop. So this is what we recommend normally for all our services, having a separate compartment to really having good structure there. And then you're creating a separate compartment for the secure desktops VCN. And then, of course, for the custom images to have all these components that you require in the process in setting up the service fully separated, and that you gain more control over the service and more granular control when building up your operating model. Generally, from the secure desktops users and tenant administrators perspective, all the users that are authenticating with secure desktops or with the admin and management users are all authenticated by our OCI Identity Cloud service. Of course, you can integrate the Identity Cloud service with federation with Microsoft Active Directory or Microsoft Entra ID, how it is called today, and basically then OCI IDCS will take care of federating these users and provide you the capabilities to use these credentials to log onto your secure desktops. Of course, to the secure desktops console, which is our let's say OCI secure desktops web interface that your users can access, and then opening their entitled desktops. And the same goes for the tenant administrators that can then actually use the IDCS and federated Active Directory accounts to create the desktop pools and then assign these desktop pools to the entitled users. So this can be fully integrated with your current authentication mechanisms that you're using on premise or that you're using already in the cloud. Generally, from an OCI Secure Desktops mapping, Dev already mentioned the concept of desktop pools and the golden image, and this is something we see again here. Basically, the relation from a golden image to a pool is normally a one-to-one relationship, because normally when you provide a pool, then this desktop pool should have a specific set of applications on an operating system. For example, in this case, we call it Desktop Pool 1. It's a Windows 11 operating system, and it has 3 applications installed. For example, it's Microsoft Outlook, it's an Oracle SQL application, and it's probably it is allowed to connect to one of more Oracle Cloud services, for example. So that's an application set that we are providing here with a golden image, and then of course, for this desktop pool, you can set a specific sizing for the virtual desktop itself, 2 OCPUs with 8 GB memory, for example, for a power user. Or when we're looking at other desktop pools, for example, desktop pool number 3, where you have Windows 11 with 1 app, with a smaller sizing of the virtual desktop, 1 OCPU, 4 GB memory, which is probably a standard user that does not require the performance like a power user has to provide. So basically, with this construct of the desktop pool, the golden image, and the sizing, you can really granularly build the desktop experience for your end users. Is it the power user? Is it the standard user? And then really granularly give users access to the specific applications that they require for their job role, for example. This is how general application or application provisioning or desktop provisioning in virtual desktop infrastructures works for the end users. Generally, from the perspective on how to calculate the service, we have provided you here with an example configuration. In the end, the service itself, from its costing or from its costing predictability, is very easy. We have an option here, or we have an example here with 100 VDI instances, and then actually with the following configuration: 1 OCPU, 8 GB memory, and 100 GB of storage with 10 VPUs per virtual desktop. And we provided an example configuration here based on Windows Server as an operating system, because this is an included operating system with OCI, and Oracle Linux, which is then also fully included into the licensing with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So the base cost for any virtual desktop per month, or for any user that is entitled to a pool, is $5. So if you have 100 VDI instances, the base cost for this month for the service will be $500. Of course, you can scale up and scale down these instance pools all the time. So if you say, okay, next month I just have 50 users, then of course it is reducing the base service cost to €250 or $250, for example. The second cost item that you have is basically the OCI resources, which is the virtual machine itself. It's based on the OCPU hours and the amount of memory and the storage itself. Basically, this is then driving the base cost for your virtual machine, and this virtual machine is then really priced on the pay-as-you-go. So if the virtual machine is just running for 8 hours that month, you're just paying for these 8 hours and not for the 730 hours in a month. This all is then completed by the operating system licensing, which comes on top. What we can see here with Oracle Linux, so there's Oracle Linux licensing is fully integrated with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, so there's no additional cost in licensing. When you go with Windows Server, for example, which is an operating system that we provide, or where we provide licensing on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, what you can see here, the overall cost is a little bit higher because each OCPU it's around about $62 per month at the moment when it comes to Windows Server licensing, and based on our calculation that these virtual desktops are running 160 hours a month. We are seeing this around about $1,500 a month for Windows Server licensing. If you do bring your own license for Windows 10 and Windows 11, of course, these costs will change, can also be much lower depending on your Microsoft contracts. And The overall costing that you see here with around about $11 and $26 for a Windows Server machine is based on 160 hours of runtime a month, where we say, okay, your users are working 8 hours a day, 20 hours a month, and then you basically are getting $11 and $26 per month per user. Based on this example calculation, but of course it's just an example based on the operating systems that you choose, based on the configuration of the server, CPU, memory, and storage. Of course, this cost will differ in the end. Generally, from the licensing options, I already mentioned it a little bit. With OCI Secure Desktops, you can provide Windows desktops or you can provide Linux desktops. For Linux desktops, if you choose Oracle Linux, then the licensing is included. You can either choose to run it on a dedicated virtual host, or you can run it on our OCI shared infrastructure. For Windows Desktop OS, it's a little bit different. Like I already mentioned, for Windows Server, we provide OCI license included for Windows Server operating systems on OCI shared infrastructure. And you can also do bring your own license for Windows Server operating systems then on dedicated virtual hosts, for example. With Windows 10 and 11, we only can provide bring your own license, so we do not offer licensing for Windows 10 and 11. And then again, you're having the options for a dedicated virtual host or with our OCI shared infrastructure to go in. And then, of course, if you're deciding to go for OCI shared infrastructure because you do not want to manage a dedicated host again, you need to have the correct licensing from Microsoft, which is the VDI for Windows subscription activation that you require to run Windows 10 and Windows 11 on Oracle Cloud infrastructure in combination with our secure desktop service. A few things to know about the Oracle Secure Desktop service. By default, you're having 5 desktop pools per tenancy. Of course, this is not a hard limit; it's a soft limit, so you can change that in the Oracle Desktop console. And desktops per pool, the maximum desktop per pool is 240 desktops, and you have a minimum deployment size of 10 desktops per pool per month. That is then really providing the base fee of the service. Pay as you go on the service is not available, so that means there's always a base fee that is assigned with the service, with desktop pools and pools per tenancy. As this service is pretty new at the moment, so this service is not offering all the features that other VDI solutions are providing currently. So we have no support for GPUs at the moment. Direct printing is also not possible with the solution right now, but it's actually items that are on our roadmap. Application streaming also not supported. So if you really require application streaming, then you have to go for a third-party solution like VMware Horizon or OCVS or Citrix on OCVS. And basically, the whole concept of Oracle Secure Desktops is that it's not a shared desktop model. So it's always a one-to-one relationship from a user to a desktop. And like I already mentioned, Windows 10 and 11 licensing is not included, so it's bring your own license, and the service is currently only accessible via the public internet. So if you require private connectivity via Fast Connect and or IPsec VPN, this is also items that are on our roadmap and will come further in the development of this service. With that said, I'm going to hand over to Dev, who will provide you an live demo about Oracle Secure Desktops. And I'm handing over to you, Dev.
Thank you so much, Thomas. That was wonderful overview for secure desktops. So I think seeing is believing. So let me share my screen and let's get started with the demo. Alrighty, so I'm into OCI Cloud Console, and as Thomas mentioned, it is a native service which is available in OCI itself, just like any other service. First thing first, the region is chosen. Just remember, the secure desktop is available in selected regions. It's not available in all the regions. So before you deploy, just check which region you're planning to implement this solution to. Few prerequisites such as networking. So I pre-created the virtual cloud network, the VCN that is needed for my desktops to connect to. So let me just change the compartment to the secure desktop, and I can, as you can see, that there is a VCN created. and a subnet created for the secure desktop as well. Now, when it comes to the desktop pool, the desktop pool is the important construct, which is totally depends on the custom image or the golden image that the Thomas mentioned during the presentation, which has the standard operating system plus the necessary applications that the end user needs. So I pre-created two custom images which are compatible to run on OCI's hypervisor. So there are certain instructions that you need to follow in order to prepare the custom images, which that you intend to bring from your on-prem or any other different environment into OCI. The things that I would like to talk about on these images is the tags. Tags are the important component in this specific custom image, and they play a very important role and define a lot of factors when you provision the desktop pool. So for example, what is the operating system type of this specific desktop pool that you want to use, which is most important part because the licensing is tied up with the Windows or Oracle Linux. Use dedicated host. If you recall, Thomas talked about the licensing options of deploying Windows on this specific service. So what typically happens is that the Microsoft prevents you to deploy Windows operating system, especially Windows 10 and 11, on the hyperscalers natively on a shared infrastructure platform, and which dictates that you should deploy them on a dedicated virtual host. That's the reason you have this specific parameter. But if your license agreement permits you to virtualize Windows 10 and 11 on hyperscaler model on a shared infrastructure platform, you can set this to false, as you can see on the specific tag. Most important tag here is whether it's the desktop image, and that's true, and is auth. So when you provision the desktop pool and when the end user connects and grabs the desktop, by default they are allowed to log in without any credentials. And then once they are logged in, they can set their own credentials because it's one-to-one mapping. So your desktop is never going to be shared with any other user. In order for you to prompt the user's authentication when they connect to the desktop, this parameter or this tag has to be set to true. Now, these are some of the prerequisites. As I mentioned, you have a networking VCN available, then you have a compute instance available. So let's go into the secure desktop screen, and let's look into the desktop pool. So there is the wizard called create desktop pool. It's a very simple wizard. You can just specify the name, description, pool start time. So if I specify all the values and hit create, it will immediately fire the desktop pool creation task. But as an administrator, if you want to set up pool start time, you can specify the specific time. But the recurrence of this pool start and pool stop is something which is available at the end of this specific wizard. But this is just to ensure when you want to fire up your desktop pool creation task, not the start and stop of the compute instances behind the desktop pool. Administrator contact details. It is important that you understand there are two different roles. One is the tenant administrator, who can create all of this for the end users, and then the end users who are actually going to consume this. So for the end users, the only place for them to consume this desktops is the service console, and the service console doesn't provide any information, only except for the fact that the administrator contact details, which allows end users to contact administrator in case if they need any support with those specific desktops. So you can just specify here, let's say, contact me on my email, something like that, and specify your email address if they face any issues. Administrator privileges, if you enable this tick box, that means the end users will be entitled to have admin rights on the desktops which are allocated to them. Pool size, which is important concept here. So the minimum pool size is the 10, maximum is 250 or 240 plus 10 is 250. What it means is that when I create this specific operation, when I create the specific desktop pool, using the custom image, it will not immediately provision 10 desktops, but it just simply means that the pool can grow up to 10. And I'll explain the setting during the creation wizard, and once we look into the pre-created desktop pools. But what it simply means is that the desktops are created dynamically when the users try and grab the desktop. And this is one-time activity. What standby size means is that how many desktops that you want to ensure are available all the time for the end users and unassigned. Why this setting is important? Because as I mentioned previously, when you say 10 is the desktop pool size, that means the desktops will not be provisioned unless somebody try and grab the desktop. So for example, I specified 10 and only 2 users connected to this desktop pool. So immediately it will provision 2 desktops. But this desktop provisioning will take close to 5 to 10 minutes for Windows and 3 to 5 minutes for Linux. So that's a wait time for the end users. In order to avoid that wait time, you can always keep the standby size. So in the previous example, when the 2 users connect and the standby size is 1, so I expect that there are 3 desktops available in the pool, and it's one-to-one mapping all the time. Placement. Since this is the multi-AD region, you can place them in a multiple availability domain. Just for you to know, availability domain is a data center within this specific geography. So there are multi-AD and a single AD region, and you can decide to deploy this desktop pool and all its associated resources tied to any specific data center there. Image and shape. This is the golden image where I shown you previously what are some of the images that I created, Windows 10 and general purpose Oracle Linux, which are available here. And here you can choose the different shapes. So these shapes is something that you can entitle, and then they gives you a different combination of CPU and memory. You can even deploy on a bare metal service if you want. And when you choose the flag or the tag as use dedicated host behind the scene, so the dedicated host with the specified shape will be provisioned in OCI tenancy, in your tenancy, and according to your shape that you have chosen, those many number of virtual machines will be hosted on that dedicated virtual host. But just remember, the dedicated virtual host will come into the picture when there is a question of Windows licensing, whether it allows you to run it on shared platform or on a dedicated platform. If you enable this option, this simply means that with the core image, you have boot disk, and this is basically an additional drive. So in case of Windows, you have a C drive, this 50 GB will be your D drive. In order to back up your configuration data or whatever the user keeps into this additional drive, you can apply different backup policies from the OCI, or you can even customize in order to save your data from the accidental delete or any other cause. Networking, here we select the VCN and then the subnet, which should be used by, it should have been used by the desktop itself. And then you can pretty much play around with the network security groups in order to control the outbound communication, as well as the NAT gateways or different gateways for you to give them access to different OCI resources. This is important section where we have device access policies. Clipboard access, that means what you can copy paste between your desktop and your end client, whether you want to only allow one way, only to the desktop or from desktop, or you want to have a full clipboard access, is something that you can specify here. Audio access, remember it is some settings are only applicable for the thin client or the installed client, what Thomas mentioned. Some of them are not applicable with the web client. So you can have audio in or audio out settings for your audio access. Drive mapping, the end client device drive will be mapped to the desktop according to the different permissions that you set. If you set none, then it will not be mounted. But if you set, let's say, only read only, then you can just browse it. Read write allows you to move the data between your map drive and the desktop itself. Here comes the recurrence of the schedule. And if you would have noticed, Thomas mentioned the calculation for the desktop pool, which says that you can run it for 160 hours, and that is possible with this recurrence. You can specify, let's say, 50 here, hour is 1, day is 1 to 5. What it says is that at 1:50 a.m. start this pool between Sunday to Thursday, because Friday, Saturday I'm off. My team is not working, and they don't need the desktops. This is completely optional. If you don't specify these settings, that means your desktop and your pool will always be available 24/7. So this is one of the way that you can optimize the cost. And at the same time, you can specify saying that 21, and then hour is 18, and then 1 to 5, saying that at 6:21 p.m. you can stop this pool, which in this case it will just shut down all the desktops, considering that the no users are connecting to this desktop pool. Now, whatever settings that I have chosen here are applicable for all the desktop that you provision through this desktop pool. So imagine if you provision 250 desktops, all will have the same settings. But if you would also notice that Thomas mentioned about the mappings of the desktop pool, you can create multiple desktop pool according to the user profiles that you may have. So once the desktops are created, this is how it looks like. So let's see, if I go into cloud coaching, CC, demo, OLE, here is the setting that I can see, the pool size, network, the image that I used. And here I can also see that here you would notice that it's unassigned. That means it is a standby desktop because of my standby size. And then you have one which is grabbed by the user. Similar case is this one. These desktop pools are only visible to the tenant administrator and not to the end user. Let me show you now how the end users gonna access this specific desktops. So I'm opening a different browser here so that we don't get conflicts anywhere. And when the end users, imagine I'm an end user, I go to the specific URL. The URL says publish desktops region, and then the client. What it asks me as a first authentication point is the tenancy name. So that's my tenancy name. And I get authenticated with this tenancy with my credentials. And I get presented with the pool that were available in the desktop pool that are created by my tenant administrator. If I click on the preferences, this is what Thomas mentioned, that you have two different options, install client and web client. Install client are the binaries that you can download from this specific location according to your client location. So let me go back to the preferences and let's keep the web client and try and accessing the first desktop. If I click on help here, that's where you see the point here, the contact the desktop administrator. So as an end user, if I face any difficulties, I can always refer to this specific node. So let me open this, and I'm expecting that the desktop should open in a web browser. So yeah. As you can see that the desktop image had a tag saying that is auth is false. That's the reason you are already directly logged into the desktop. And these are like a wizard that is available for you to browse. These are some of the controls that allows you to manage different operations between your desktop and the end client as well. So if I just do here dear match, this is what I'm expected to see. So this is the Linux desktop which I opened in the browser. Let me go back and try and change my preferences to the installed client. Go back and try and browse the Windows desktop. And I'm not sure if you remember, but in the Windows desktop, I set a tag saying that authentication is true. That means I got authenticated first to my OCI tenancy, and now I am getting authenticated to the operating system itself. Let me reshare my screen because I shared only the deck. So let me reshare the entire screen so that you can actually see that when I launched, when I launched the desktop, it prompted the secure desktop client in my browser. So let me just use the credentials because I use a tag saying that auth is true. And let me connect to it. And it grabs me a Windows desktop as well. So let me just browse through it. The clipboard access setting was that I was clipboard access was full, copy paste access was provided, as well as there was a drive which was mapped. So you can see that my end client, which is mapped, which is already mapped to this specific desktop, which can allow me different permissions based on the settings that I have configured in the desktop pool itself. And then there is additional drive, which was the block storage attached. So we always recommend customers when they have these desktops, they can move their user profile data to the D drive and keep taking the backup. So in case if anything goes wrong with your desktop, you can always rebuild and have your data back. That's it. That's pretty much it. I think it would be it is a helpful session for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out EMEA Cloud VMware Solution Specialist team. And thank you for listening. Thomas, you have any final words?
No, actually, no final words. It was really great presentation from your side, and I think that really shows the power and the benefits of the service. And like Dev already mentioned, if you have any questions, reach out to the Cloud VMware Solution Specialist or to your local sales reps, and then you can get the direct contact to us, and we can help you working on a solution design for Oracle Secure Desktops, and help you in migrating to the cloud.